Hey everyone, welcome. It is so good to be with you today. Can you believe it? It's September, it's a long weekend, and it's great to be together. Here's the thing. We're jumping into Genesis 1, but before we get there, a couple questions for you. First off, this one. Have you ever been stumbling around in the dark? You know, like no lights, pitch black, can't see a thing. I want to tell you a quick story. When I was in college, the basement of our building, because really we were in a multi-level building, the whole school, one building. In the basement of it, every now and then we'd be allowed to, as residents who lived in the building, we'd get to go into the basement and play all kinds of games. Zero lights, can't see a thing, great time to go running around. Oh, did I mention? Concrete walls everywhere, right? Like you're running through the dark, boom, wall. Super sketchy, but super fun. And so we play all kinds of like hiding games there. One time we're all in a different room of this basement with zero lights. And we had no idea that just like me to, I don't know, like not even that wall away, right? Just a little bit of space was the guy hiding. And we walked like right by him. He wasn't behind anything. He wasn't under anything. Just pressed up against the wall flat with a hood over his face so we can see his skin. And totally didn't even see him. It was super dark. Well, maybe you've never had an experience like that, but I want you to think for a minute what it would be like if there was zero light. You know what? Maybe we should just make that happen. Hold on, I'm gonna turn off the lights. Right? Now, blackness. That's all you can see. There's absolutely nothing to see. Well, you know what happened if we went on with zero sunlight for very long? Actually, I don't think it'd even take that long. Nothing would be able to live, right? It would be cold, things would be frozen, there'd be all kinds of environmental problems, and life could not be sustained. So, here's why I want us to think of what it'd be like without light. First, let me just turn the lights back on. Great. See, here's the thing. It's really hard for us to maybe picture it, but I can't even say there was a time, because there was no such thing as time. Before time existed, before anything existed, there was only darkness, but there was God. And today we're talking about creation. We're talking about the very beginning of everything. And it's really fitting because the very beginning of everything is also the very beginning of the Bible. And one of the things I hope we can see is that all of the Bible points us towards God. And it starts right away. The very first sentence starts teaching us something about God. Actually, you know what? It's our memory verse for this month. And maybe before we get into today's specific lesson, because I want it to be on our mind all morning, is the verse from Genesis 1:1, right? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then the story goes on from there to tell us everything else God created. All of it. And so, you know what? Let me actually put a picture of the world, right? This right here, this planet is what God created. Among everything else you'll see, God created this planet. The way it is formed, its shape, the fact that there's, and you can't see it on the picture so much, but the fact that there's mountains and valleys and oceans and everything, and animals and plants and people and everything that's on it, God made. You know, I don't know if you had a chance this summer to see the meteor shower, right? Did you get out to see it? We took a night. My kids weren't around. They were out visiting their grandparents one night, and after my wife got off work, we drove up to like Crystal Mountain and we laid out in the parking lot, and it was just like thousands of stars above us. And every now and then there'd be a really bright, colorful whoosh, star shoot by. It was absolutely mind-blowingly amazing to watch. It was such a cool thing to see and to lay out there and go, wow, God made it all. It is so amazing and magnificent. Well, we know God made it all. The Bible tells us God made it all. But more than that, let's actually jump into Genesis 1 and look exactly what God made and the order in which God made. Because God is a God of purpose. That's something else that this creation account teaches us about God. First, that he made everything. Two, that he's a God of purpose, right? Goes on to talk in Genesis 1 about how God created order. There was chaos in the water, and God created order. God is a God of purpose and of organization. He's absolutely magnificent. But, all right, here's the order of things. So, Genesis 1 tells us that day one, very first thing God started creating was what? Light. Maybe we should make it dark again. Should we do that? All right, here we go. Dark. It was dark. This is what it was like. God was just like, nothing, right? Then God goes, let there be light. Boom, light, right? And then the writer of Genesis goes, okay, so that was evening, morning, day one. All right. Right? And, and then he also tells us that God saw it and it was good. But here's the thing. You might not. Like, were you there when God did it? No, you weren't. I wasn't. Do you know the writer of Genesis? He wasn't either, right? We understand that Moses wrote Genesis, and the only one who was there when it happened was God. And God told Moses, hey, this is what you should write. And so Moses kind of wrote it down. And we might look at this and we might go, oh, that seems like a fairy tale, or it doesn't seem real. Well, God is a God of miracles. God can do anything. God does all kinds of stuff in the Bible that just doesn't make sense from a human perspective. I can't part seas. I can't, make blind people see. I can't take 5 fish and then feed thousands of people with it. But God can, right? God can make anything. God can do anything. He is absolutely powerful and amazing and wonderful. And he can make light when there's only darkness. Okay? And that's day one. Day two then, all right? Second day. Day one, God makes light. Day two then, God creates the skies, right? So the earth prior to that, it's described as just a little watery mess, right? And God says, well, the Bible actually says he separates the water. So you got the oceans and the seas that we have on the planet, and then the sky above it becomes a different type of water. And then God says, look, that's good. That's good stuff. And that's day two. Day three, he goes on. Day three, well, now the earth kind of gets some ground covering. Okay? We get grass, plants, trees. And then, and this is important, and God kind of instructs the vegetation, the plants and everything, that they're going to have to recreate in their kind, right? God gives them ability to create seeds. The ability that those seeds would then create more. So when you eat an apple, right? And in the middle of the core is those seeds, right? Those could be planted to make more apple trees, right? I have all kinds of random trees keep popping up in my ground, in my yard, from whether it's a maple tree seed that falls, right? One of those little helicopter propelly thingies falls, becomes a tree. Or, a plum pit got dropped one time and later there was a tree sprouting on. I've got all kinds of stuff. I'll put compost on my garden a year after dumping all these tomatoes and stuff in, and then suddenly there's random tomato plants popping up in my garden. This is all God's creative design so that plants would be able to reproduce. Okay? And God gave them all that ability. That's then day 3. Okay, day 4. All right? All kinds of other planets get created. Moons, stars, everything else. Right? Everything that fills the night sky that we see, like those shooting stars I told you I went and watched. All of that God then made on day 4. Day 5 then, God wasn't done. He had more to do. Then we get things like flying animals, birds, fish. Okay? Fish don't fly, they float. But so if they're up in the sky or they're down in the water, that's when God made them on day 5. And then day 6. All right? Day 6, you get all the animals that walk around or crawl around on the ground. Okay? Then you get your what? Your giraffes, your lions, your rhinoceroses, all those guys. I get your snakes, your lizards, everything like that. And you also get people. Now, here's what's really important in the creation story. What God revealed to Moses, who wrote it, in that is that when it comes to creating people, people are actually made a little different. All right? First, God makes a person, and he's called Adam, which just kind of means man. All right? Not the most creative naming. We recognize that, right? God doesn't go, oh, man. All right, whatever. We'll call him Adam. Anyways, but that person prior to that, God decides, you know what? We're going to make this one special. We're going to make him to look like God. God says, I'm going to make this one look like me. And he's going to have different roles, and he's going to have different capacities, right? First of all, the capacity for a relationship with God. Right? Jesus tells us in the New Testament that God knows the animals and knows what they need and knows all about them, but people have the ability to know God back and have a relationship with God back. And later in Genesis, we see that actually, after God finishes creating everything, he and the man have conversations. They talk with each other. Right? They are like friends, right? All of that because God created people different. And then God wanted to create a woman, and she's created differently yet, right? But still with that capacity to know God, to have a relationship with God, to be like God in how she looks, okay? So, and that was day 6, right? People and land animals, all on day 6. Then day 7 comes around. God takes a break. God says, you know what? Looks good. I'm going to take the day off, right? And sets a pattern for us of taking a day off a week to rest, but most important, to celebrate our capacity to know God and to spend time in worship and praise and relationship with God. So those are the 7 days of creation, right? Day 1, light. Day 2, right? Separate skies from seas. Day 3 then is plants. Day 4, other stars and planets in the sky. Day 5, birds and fish. Day 6, people and land animals. And day 7, he creates Sabbath. He creates rest. Okay? And those are the 7 days that we have for us as recorded in creation. And the most important lessons, I know sometimes people say, well, that's clearly like the way it was. Well, most important lessons are that God made it. God has the ability to do anything, right? And God created people for a special relationship. Those are the most important lessons in all of Genesis 1 and 2. That God wants a relationship with us. He made us for that purpose, with that capacity, unlike any other. And God is the one who makes it all. All right? And so, a few things for us as we kind of reflect on that a little bit today. All right? Here's the thing about creation that I think is really cool. One of the themes in the Bible that kind of comes in and out a few times is when different writers have looked around at everything that God made, right? They kind of step back and they look at this, right? They look at this globe, they look at the world that they can see. Of course, they can't see this. This is a modern thing when we got to go up to space and kind of look back. But whether they're out on a mountain valley, top kind of surveying the valley, or they're down at the coast looking out across the sea, or they're just staring into the face of their friend, or they're observing what God has made in some way or another, they've reflected on that experience. And a couple verses kind of help us see that what God made can actually point us back towards him. Right? So like we got Psalm 19, for example, right, where the psalmist writes, the heavens declare the glory of God. The heavens. That's like another word for like the sky at night, the stars and the sun and the moon. And when they look out at the sky, they go, wow, God is awesome. Right? Or like Paul, who wrote the letter to Romans, he says that ever since the creation of the world, God's eternal power, his divine nature, his invisible though they are, have been understood and seen through the things he has made. Right? What that verse is saying is, look, when you look at what God's made, you can learn about God. Right? Everything that God makes points back to him. So I saw like the other day, I saw a real close-up picture of like butterfly wings. And within the wing, at first I looked at this picture and I went, that looks like a series of feathers. They kind of said, this is a zoomed up photo. What is that? I thought, well, it must be a bird's wing. And then he zoomed out and was like, butterfly wing? I'm like, that is just amazing. The details that my eyes can't normally see, but God sees, right? When we look at the night sky and we get away from the city and there's so many more stars and we're like, wow, this place is huge. And yet God is bigger. He knows the teeny tiny things and he knows the massively huge things. He looks back on this and he goes, that's not even as big as my pinky. God is so incredible. And the Bible tells us that he made everything. He made everything. And he made it all. He made it all just incredible, but he made it all in a special way where so much stuff is similar but different. Like we talk sometimes about how no two fingerprints are exactly the same, right? Or you think about even just sunsets, right? It's 365 sunsets a year, but are they all exactly the same? No, they're all different. The colors are different. The way the sun plays with the clouds and all different sort of factors just creates this beautiful, elegant, different sunset every day. Right? Snowflakes. They say no two are the same. It's incredible. And it all comes from the mind of God who sees it all. Right? And so to help us remember that, to remember our verse this week, if you click on the website, if you're on the LakeviewHeightsBaptist.ca website, you go to the Children's Ministry page, Children's Ministry homepage, there's a D6 logo there, and you get to click on that, and you can download some at-home materials. One of them this week is a sheet of bookmarks that you guys can color in to kind of help you remember this. Field notes are there. Field notes, I gotta tell you, they're gonna look differently now, right? The group that puts our curriculum together, they kind of reformatted a bunch of stuff. It's gonna look different, but it's still lots of different ways where you this week can interact with the creation account in Genesis and be thinking about how great God is, that he has absolutely made all this. The more we learn about God, the more we remember that he is in charge of it all. He's in charge of it all. He cares about it. He cares for it. Sometimes people make the mistake. They think that, God did the first 6 days, and then God just stepped back and says, I'm done. I'm not doing anything more. It's up to the people now. But that's actually not true. Genesis goes on to tell us all the different ways that God is involved and active in the world today. And I look forward to exploring more of that with you next week. We'll see you then.